Yeah. Jay Speener on Instagram asks, best pens for hand pain. And there are a lot of different answers that we could
Is
go
that like best pens to stab somebody?
with, to
cause
create
them hand
pain.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Probably a lot of pens would fall into that category.
They're
I
all
guess.
pointy. No, what I would recommend if you have some sort of arthritis situation, carpal tunnel, something that makes it uncomfortable, that's not uncommon because a lot of folks actually gravitate to fountain pens because they're easier on your wrist because you don't have to push down hard. If you have a nicely tuned fountain pen, that ink is going to flow with no pressure at all. So it's not uncommon to search out fountain pens to help with that.
Yeah, and I would say even just the fact that you have discovered fountain pens at all, you're already on the right track. And pretty much pick up any fountain pen, you're going to be more or less in a better position than you would be with most other writing implements. Just because of the nature of the way the pens flow, they require less pressure. You don't have to have a mechanical ball like a ballpoint or a roller ball that you're physically having to use friction to drag it across the page to get it to write. Fountain pens will flow through capillary action. So basically any properly writing fountain pen is going to require less pressure and be easier on your hand. Now, you can nuance that even further. If you have a pen that's way too small or very, very heavy or something like that, that could cause some cramping and fatigue with your hand.
Yeah, don't go with a small pen made of iron.
Right. Well, I mean, there are pens like that, like Quaco Lilliput, right? Very small pen, but it's also kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best one for a long writing session if you have hand pain and you have large hands like me.
Remember that CP1 that was made of like not the
Yeah, there's a platinum CP1.
that thing,
right?
That thing was so skinny.
It was very skinny,
but it was also kind of weighty for
it wasn't super heavy, but
the size it was. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely heavier than the brass one.
I think you want to go the opposite direction of that. You want to go with something that's larger, especially large at the grip section. Yeah, the length of it maybe matters a little bit less, as long as it's long enough to rest on your thumb, whatever web or whatever it's called, then you're going to be okay. And that's most pens. Yep. And then going with something that, doesn't have a whole lot of friction when you're writing with it, something with a slightly smoother nib, that is a very broad generalization, but something that's as light as possible as well. So I had a kind of a short list of ones that I thought would be kind of good. You had some too. I don't know if you mentioned any of these
No,
yet.
not yet.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just leapfrog you.
Go for it.
The ones that I had. So ones that we get actually, told about a lot is Edison Collier.
That's a big pen.
It's a big pen.
But it's light.
It is light. You can eyedropper convert it and write with it for
But then it won't be
ever.
light.
Well, it'll be a little bit heavier, but it's still a pretty light pen. That's a good one, nice big grip section. The Penlux Masterpiece Grande, kind of in that same vein, very large pen. TWSBI actually gets recommended a lot. The 580, VAX 700, maybe a little bit less, but the 580 generally is pretty well liked. And the Conklin All-American, that's another good big one. And that's a little more affordable maybe than the Collier and the Masterpiece Grande. But those ones get talked about quite a bit. But anything kind of in that vein, I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, the Monteverde Ritma is a metal pen, so it's on the heavier side, especially if you post it. But the grip section is pretty much the same diameter as the barrel itself, so it's got a pretty wide grip on that thing.
Yeah, very tubular pen.
Yeah, and then the Opus 88 usually has pretty substantial grip sections as well.
Yeah, that's a big pen and pretty light as well.
And one thing I will say, if you are at all familiar with a pen that does have a comfortable grip section for you, we have a comparison tool on our website called the Pen Plaza, which has every one of our pens able to be compared side by side with any of the other pens. So if you know how your Jinhao looks and you want to compare the width of the grip sections to something you have yet to purchase, that's a great way to do it. We also have grip diameters on every one of our products that we sell, or all the pens anyway.
With a slight asterisk there, we have to make a judgment call because not all grips are like the Ritma where it's just one straight tube.
Right, we measure at the widest point.
Yeah, no, not always.
That's the way we use it.
We have to kind of pick and choose. It gets complicated.
Okay.
We try to measure it at the place where we think that most people would be holding it.
Oh, that's not the way I did it when I did it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It was a long time before I used to do it.
Yeah, so it is complicated because when you get a pen like the Studio, for example, it's got a pretty hardcore taper, or the 2000, right? It's got a pretty hardcore taper on it. Where exactly is the measuring point for the grip
right where the steel starts.
Pen? Where the steel starts, right here. That's where you grip this pen.
No, where the steel
That's the grip?
Yeah.
So you're gripping it right there? I'm not. I'm gripping it here.
Well,
I actually hold the I have 3 different fingers in like basically 3 different spots.
All right.
So how do you measure that exactly? It's complicated.
Anyway, it's on there, and you can use that to gauge approximately. We're talking millimeters here, so if you're off by a couple, it's not really going to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
What you're really comparing is the one where it's 10 millimeters off than the other one or something like that.
Correct.
So you'll know.
Correct.